Imagine the Earth a billion years ago, in the heart of the Proterozoic eon. Our planet was already ancient by human standards, nearly 3.5 billion years old, but still restless and ever-changing. Dominating the surface was Rodinia, a colossal supercontinent unlike anything we know today. Spanning from pole to pole, it was a world of extremes, vast deserts in its interior, barren rocky mountains rising across its backbone, and immense coastlines that shaped the flow of oceans and winds. Rodinia was not teeming with forests, animals, or flowers. Instead, it was a harsh land, almost entirely lifeless on the surface. Yet beneath shallow seas at its edges, microscopic pioneers, cyanobacteria and microbial mats clung to survival. These tiny architects were silently transforming the planet, pumping oxygen into the atmosphere and laying the groundwork for all complex life to come. Tectonic forces deep within Earth never rested. Magma currents churned like slow, molten rivers beneath Rodinia's crust, building pressure. Over millions of years, these forces fractured the vast landmass, carving cracks that would grow into rifts and eventually tear Rodinia apart. The breakup of Rodinia would not just reshape geography, it would change climate, oceans, and ultimately the destiny of life itself. The splitting of continents opened new shallow seas where sunlight could penetrate, fueling photosynthesis and encouraging the spread of microbial life. It also triggered changes in ocean currents and carbon cycles that would pave the way for future evolutionary explosions. At this moment in deep time, the Earth was preparing for a chain reaction. A supercontinent was breaking, the oceans were stirring, and the atmosphere was gradually shifting toward oxygen-rich air. To us, it seems like silence, but to life, however small, it was a revolution. As Rodinia fractured, shallow seas spread across the edges of the splitting continents. These new environments became laboratories of life. Shallow water allowed sunlight to penetrate deeper, enabling photosynthetic organisms to flourish. Cyanobacteria expanded their reach, carpeting rocks and seafloors in greenish-blue mats. Stromatolites, layered microbial structures, grew into bizarre, alien-like mounds, silently recording each day's sunlight in stone. The oxygen produced by these microbes slowly enriched the oceans and atmosphere. But oxygen was both a gift and a curse. For anaerobic life that had dominated Earth for billions of years, oxygen was poison. Entire microbial communities vanished, while others adapted, evolving new ways to survive in this shifting chemical landscape. The breakup of Rodinia also altered global climate. With new coastlines, ocean currents shifted dramatically. Carbon dioxide cycles changed, sometimes plunging Earth into cooler periods. Scientists suspect that these tectonic and climatic upheavals laid the groundwork for future snowball Earth events, where glaciers would one day cover nearly the entire planet. For now, Earth was in transition. The seas were shallow and productive. Life was expanding, evolving resilience in the face of oxygen stress. Though still microscopic, these organisms were shaping the biosphere in profound ways. They were engineers of habitability, creating conditions that, millions of years later, would allow animals to rise. This was the beginning of ecological engineering by life itself, tiny microbes influencing the chemistry of oceans, the gases of the atmosphere, and even the global temperature. The microbial world was now in flux. For billions of years, anaerobic organisms had thrived in an oxygen-poor world. But with Rodinia's breakup and the oxygen boom, survival demanded change. Some microbes evolved new metabolic pathways, learning to harness oxygen rather than perish in its presence. This was innovation at the cellular level, tiny engines of energy that would one day fuel complex life. Others sought refuge in deeper, oxygen-deprived waters. Life retreated underground, into sediments or in extreme environments where oxygen could not reach. This hidden biosphere became a sanctuary for ancient lineages, persisting even as the surface world transformed. Stromatolites became iconic survivors. Their layered structures protected inner communities from oxygen stress, allowing microbial life to thrive even as the world above them changed. These resilient colonies left behind one of the richest fossil records of Precambrian life. Every adaptation written in these microbes was a rehearsal for the future. By experimenting with oxygen tolerance, by pushing metabolic boundaries, life was testing pathways that would eventually lead to mitochondria, to complex cells, and eventually to animals. In the silence of shallow seas, unseen battles raged. Microbes adapted, retreated, or perished. The story of survival was written not in bones or shells, but in chemical traces and layered stones. This was the hidden drama of evolution, microscopic wars shaping the destiny of all future creatures.
Rodinia's breakup was not the end, but the beginning of a new chapter. The shallow seas it created nurtured microbial life, and the oxygenation it accelerated set the stage for something extraordinary. Over the next hundreds of millions of years, Earth experienced cycles of glaciation, warming, and tectonic reshuffling. Each cycle challenged life. Each cycle demanded adaptation. By around 600 million years ago, Earth was primed for change. Eukaryotic cells, complex cells with internal structures, began to flourish. These cells, powered by mitochondria, were the direct heirs of microbial survival strategies forged during Rodinia's fall. The oxygen-rich atmosphere created new ecological opportunities. Larger organisms could now extract enough energy to sustain bigger bodies. Slowly, the foundations of multicellular life were laid. Rodinia's breakup had unlocked the chain reaction, from barren supercontinent to vibrant shallow seas, from microbial mats to the seeds of animals. What began as a geological event became a biological revolution. The Cambrian explosion, still millions of years away, would eventually burst forth with astonishing diversity, but its roots were planted here, in the quiet transformation of Rodinia's world.
Rodinia's story is not just about rocks and tectonics. It is the story of how Earth itself prepared the stage for life. A supercontinent cracked apart, shallow seas blossomed, oxygen filled the skies, and microbes fought to adapt or perish. Out of this chaos came innovation, the rise of complexity, the groundwork for the explosion of animals yet to come. The Cambrian world is remembered for its sudden diversity of life, but its roots stretch deep into Rodinia's ruins. Without the breakup, without the oxygen surge, without microbial survival, there would be no trilobites, no fish, no humans. The story of Rodinia is a reminder that Earth is alive in its own way. Continents move, oceans shift, climates swing, and life responds. Out of destruction comes creation. Out of survival comes evolution. But here's a question to leave you with. Was this really just natural evolution?
Some scientists argue that the sudden surge of oxygen and the rise of complex life are too perfectly timed to be coincidence. Was Earth programmed for life from the beginning, its tectonics and oceans acting like a blueprint? Or did something else interfere? A cosmic accident, an unknown catalyst, even whispers of panspermia, the idea that life or its building blocks were seeded here from beyond our planet, still stirred debate. If that's true, then Rodinia wasn't just a stage, it was a lab, a planet-sized experiment. And the Cambrian explosion? Perhaps not only evolution's triumph, but evidence of a deeper, hidden design. What do you think? Accident or intention? Write down what do you think in the comment. And in our next episode, we step into the dawn of the Cambrian, where life, once microscopic, bursts into astonishing forms.